Welcome to the channel. Grief is an unexpected visitor that arrives uninvited, settles in, and seems unwilling to leave. But what if, instead of trying to push it away, we embraced its presence? Imagine that the pain of loss never truly disappears, but can transform over time. For many, grief is more than just a passing emotion. It becomes a part of their identity. And that's not a bad thing. We begin to understand that grief reflects the depth of our love and the importance of those we've lost. With this video, we'll explore how accepting this ongoing pain can be a form of healing rather than suffering. In Stoicism, the acceptance of inevitable emotions, such as the pain of grief, is seen as a key to inner peace. Instead of fighting the unavoidable, Stoics believe we should welcome these emotions as part of the human experience. This Stoic perspective encourages us to stop running from pain and instead to learn from it. After all, pain is part of what makes us human and reminds us of how deeply we've loved. When someone we love departs, it's as if a part of us is torn away, leaving behind a void that's hard to fill. Every memory, every place they used to go, brings a new wave of longing and pain. And in this process, grief settles in, revealing a nearly constant presence that persists through the days and even invades our happiest moments. We may spend weeks, months, even years trying to cope with this absence, but the truth is, grief doesn't follow a schedule. It appears and reappears, carrying with it the mark of what that person meant to us, as if to say, "I'm here, and you need to learn to live with me." For many, accepting grief seems impossible because the pain of loss is overwhelming. Our first reaction might be to ignore it, to move on as quickly as possible, as if avoiding the pain could make it disappear. But grief doesn't work that way. Ignoring it is like trying to ignore a shadow that follows us. It will always be there, silently waiting to make itself known again. Perhaps healing doesn't lie in leaving the pain behind, but in facing it head-on, allowing grief to become a part of us without paralyzing us. When grief becomes a companion on our journey, it teaches us that there is strength in accepting life's fragility and the impermanence of relationships. When we finally stop fighting the pain and accept it as part of our existence, something extraordinary can happen. Instead of feeling defeated by absence, we may start to notice the subtle presence of the person we've lost in the small details of everyday life. Perhaps it's in the scent of a favorite flower, the sound of a song, or even a phrase they often said. This connection transforms, and the pain that once seemed unbearable turns into a quiet tribute, a memory that carries both sadness and beauty. Grief stops being a burden and becomes part of our legacy, a mark of the depth of our love and the intensity of our connection to someone who will always be a part of us. We live in a society that pressures us to move on from grief quickly, almost as if it were an obstacle to be left behind. But what happens when that pain persists? When, instead of fading, it becomes a part of our daily existence? There's a misconception that grief is a stage to be overcome, but for many, it is a permanent mark. We feel like failures when we can't forget or move forward. This is a weight that many people carry in silence, not knowing that it's possible to live with grief in a healthy way. The Stoics saw pain and loss as inherent parts of life and believed that our response to these feelings defines our inner peace. For them, it wasn't about overcoming pain, but about understanding it. Marcus Aurelius, for example, spoke of life's transience and the necessity of accepting loss as inevitable. This perspective offers a way forward. Instead of blaming ourselves for the pain, we learn to accept it as a natural part of the human experience. Our society gives us little room for the persistence of grief. There's an implicit expectation that we must be resilient and, after a reasonable time, return to normal. Phrases like life goes on, or time heals all wounds, seem to rush our recovery, as if deep pain were an unwelcome interruption to our productivity and happiness. This mindset imposes pressure to move on quickly, but ignores the complexity of feelings that come with significant loss. It's as if society is saying pain must have an end, while the reality for those living with it is quite different. After all, there is no time limit on longing, nor a precise moment when we stop missing someone we love. Many people facing grief feel isolated in the process, as if they're the only ones experiencing such deep and lasting pain. The difficulty of explaining this to others, the lack of understanding, and often the impatience of those around them make the process even more painful. Gradually, we internalize the idea that persistent pain is a sign of weakness or an inability to move on. This pressure to get over it can create a sense of inadequacy, leading the grieving person to doubt their own strength. The truth, however, is that we're not failing by continuing to feel the pain. This deep, enduring feeling is actually proof of how much we loved and valued the person who is no longer with us. Another major challenge is dealing with guilt, which often accompanies grief. We feel that by mourning for so long, we're doing something wrong or failing to honor the memory of our loved one. And when moments of joy or distraction arise, guilt returns, as if happiness were a betrayal of their memory. This internal struggle makes grief a difficult cycle to break. On one hand, society pressures us to overcome it. On the other, our minds punish us for the persistent pain and occasional joy we allow ourselves to feel. It's a weight few understand, but one that's deeply felt by those who grieve. Perhaps the real problem lies in the idea that grief must be resolved or overcome, as if it were a temporary obstacle rather than a permanent part of our journey. This distorted view leads many people to get lost, trying everything to heal, and upon failing, feeling incomplete or inadequate. Grief isn't a process that ends. It's a profound transformation that changes us forever. We shouldn't feel obligated to leave this pain behind, but rather find a way to coexist with it. This is what many fail to realize. Grief is not a failure to overcome pain, but proof of a deep love and connection that will always have a place in our hearts. Who hasn't had that moment when, in the midst of daily life, a memory of someone who's passed away suddenly surfaces, bringing that feeling of loss all over again? It could be a song, a place, or a phrase. Grief is like that, unexpected and profound, appearing at the most random moments to remind us that someone left a void in our lives. And that's what makes it so difficult to deal with. It doesn't respect time or the rules of daily life. For those living this experience, understanding that this feeling is shared by so many others can bring relief, showing that this journey is both human and universal. To the Stoics, these feelings that arise without warning are opportunities to practice self-awareness and acceptance. They believe that by observing ourselves without judgment and recognizing what we feel, we become stronger and more resilient. By realizing that grief is a continuous and natural process, we allow the pain to become part of our narrative without letting it dominate our emotions. Perhaps you've felt that pang of pain when hearing a song you used to share with a loved one, or maybe passing by a place that was special to you both. A whirlwind of memories flooded your heart. These memories don't ask for permission to surface. They simply appear, bringing the presence and absence of the departed. For many, this unexpected invasion of memories is a painful reminder of what's been lost, but also a vivid testament to the love and connection that still exist. Grief, then, becomes an experience that accompanies us in unexpected moments, intensely and indelibly connecting our past to our present. Living with grief is like carrying an invisible weight that, though hidden from others' eyes, is felt in every detail of daily life. A simple comment, a laugh, or even a familiar scent can bring back an avalanche of emotions that seemed dormant. Often, we feel like we're the only ones carrying this kind of pain, as though no one else could understand what's happening inside us. But the truth is that grief is a universal feeling. Millions of people worldwide experience this mix of longing, pain, and love. This silent journey, though solitary in essence, is also shared, reminding us that we are not truly alone. When we meet others who have gone through the same experience, a special connection arises, a mutual understanding that requires few words. This recognition helps us realize that there is nothing wrong with what we feel, that grief is not a weakness, but a form of expressing the love that endures. With each conversation, with each encounter with someone who has also lost someone dear, we see that the pain of grief is a shared language, something that, no matter how painful, unites us in our humanity. And this connection can bring relief, showing us that our pain is understood and respected. Accepting grief as part of our journey allows us to acknowledge its presence without needing to hide it. By sharing our pain with others, we discover that grief, though painful, is an experience that teaches us about the importance of relationships and memories. It reminds us that loss, despite its sorrow, also shapes us and teaches us the value of every moment we share with those we love. By viewing our suffering as part of a universal human experience, we feel a little more connected, a little less isolated, knowing that despite our personal sorrows, we are part of something greater and profoundly human. Transforming grief into something positive may seem impossible, but there is a way forward. Accepting grief as part of our lives can teach us to live with greater gratitude. Every moment, every memory becomes a treasure, a reflection of who we were and who we loved. This pain, which once seemed unbearable, begins to transform into a daily reminder of what truly matters. We learn to value the present, to live more consciously, cherishing the time we have with those we love. By accepting grief, we gain the freedom to live with an open heart and to find beauty in the small moments. In Stoic philosophy, there is a concept called amor fati, which means love of fate. The Stoics believed that instead of resisting what happens in our lives, we should learn to embrace and even love everything that comes our way, even the most painful experiences. This allows us to transform grief into a source of strength, accepting it as part of our path and our legacy. In doing so, by living with this love for fate, each memory becomes an act of love and acceptance. When we start to view grief from a new perspective, something surprising happens. It ceases to be merely unbearable pain and transforms into a silent guide that teaches us to appreciate the value of life. Every moment spent with someone we love becomes a living reminder of how precious those moments were. We begin to approach each day, each conversation with more attention and sensitivity, because we now understand how fleeting these experiences can be. This transformation is one of the most powerful benefits of grief. It awakens us to the preciousness of the present, bringing new awareness that we must cherish the now and those around us, for all we have is temporary. Another transformative effect of grief is the development of an inner strength we might never have discovered otherwise. Navigating this period of profound pain challenges us, but also reveals hidden capacities like resilience and compassion. We begin to see ourselves as survivors, as people who have managed to move forward despite the pain. This teaches us to be kinder to others, to recognize that everyone carries their own invisible battles. Grief, therefore, not only strengthens our ability to cope with future losses, but also expands our empathy and understanding of others' suffering. In addition to making us more grateful and resilient, grief also teaches us the importance of memories. The memories we hold of those who have passed become true legacies, stories we carry with pride and affection. This pain, when embraced, can be transformed into a way of honoring the loved one, keeping their presence alive in our hearts and actions. Each memory becomes a connection point with those who are gone, and these memories start to give us strength instead of causing us pain. By choosing to remember with love rather than suffering, we find a way to celebrate the life of the departed, turning grief into a journey of reconciliation and, in some ways, celebration. Over time, learning to live with grief helps us open our hearts to life with greater ease. Instead of living in fear of loss, we begin to accept that pain is part of the journey, and this frees us to love without so many reservations. Every experience, every encounter gains more value because we understand that even pain has a purpose. By embracing grief, we gain a new perspective that allows us to see beauty in human vulnerability, in impermanence, and in the intensity of the bonds we create. And so grief, which once seemed like endless pain, shows us that to love, to suffer, and to remember are all parts of a life fully lived, enabling the heart to remain open to everything that is yet to come. Instead of trying to erase the pain of grief, we can transform it into a tribute to what we have experienced and felt. Rather than letting go of memories, we can incorporate them into our daily lives in a healthy way. This doesn't mean the pain will disappear, but it will no longer be a burden. It will become a living and transformative reminder. Every act we perform in memory of those who have departed, every dream we pursue with them in mind, helps keep their essence alive within us. This is true healing, learning to live and to turn longing into a tribute that inspires us. The Stoics spoke of the importance of living virtuously, even in the face of the harshest difficulties. For them, maintaining the legacy of those we love through our own actions is a way to continue honoring them while developing ourselves as individuals. We live to be strong, to transform what could destroy us into something that elevates us. By doing so, we carry the best of them within us, and the pain of grief becomes a source of inspiration and virtue. The solution to living with grief is not about erasing memories or trying to move on as if nothing happened. On the contrary, it lies in creating a new way of living with what we feel, making longing a natural part of our daily lives. Imagine each memory as a seed of inspiration. Instead of avoiding these memories, we can allow them to bloom in our hearts and shape our actions. When we let grief transform into a form of celebration, each moment spent with the departed becomes a beacon that lights our path, guiding us with the lessons and love we received. Integrating grief into our daily lives is an act of courage because it allows us to embrace pain without letting it define us. Instead of fighting against longing, we learn to use it as fuel for our own journeys. Every dream we achieve, every goal we pursue, can carry the presence of those we love, as if we are moving forward together towards something greater. In this way, we turn grief into an act of growth, continuity, and connection. This approach teaches us that, although the person is no longer physically present, they live on in the choices and achievements that inspire us. This path of transformation also helps us see that the legacy of those we love is much more than a painful memory. It is expressed through our actions, passions, and everything we continue to build. Every action, every smile, every accomplishment can become a silent tribute, a testament that the love and respect for those who have departed remain alive and present in our lives. Thus, longing, which once seemed like an unbearable weight, transforms into an invisible force that propels us forward, constantly reminding us of the profound impact that person had on our lives. Finally, by choosing to live in honor of these memories, we find a form of personal redemption. We learn that true healing does not mean forgetting, but rather allowing the love we experienced to continue inspiring every step we take. This love becomes a force that renews us, motivates us to be better, and helps us find meaning in every moment. In this way, we turn grief into an experience that not only leaves a mark, but also improves us, bringing light to our journey. This is the true solution, to turn pain into a source of growth and memory into a flame that keeps love alive, guiding and inspiring us every single day. Grief is, above all, a testament to love. When we feel this overwhelming pain, it reflects the deep connection we shared with someone who brought light and meaning to our lives. This pain, as difficult as it may be, is a reminder of the privilege it was to have lived alongside someone who left an indelible mark on us. It shows that we were capable of building true and unforgettable bonds. In the end, grief is not a burden, but a symbol of the intensity of a love that transcends existence itself. It is proof that the person we loved has left an eternal imprint on our hearts. Choosing to live fully, even while carrying the longing, is the greatest tribute we can pay to those who have departed. Every smile we share with the world, every achievement, and every moment of joy are ways to honor the memory of those who are no longer with us. It's like saying that even in their absence, they continue to guide, inspire, and strengthen us. By living with intensity, we carry the legacy of those we loved in every action and gesture. We transform our grief into a silent yet powerful tribute, showing that love is eternal and that the bond remains alive in all that we do. When grief is transformed into love and gratitude, it ceases to be a burden and becomes a strength. This strength inspires us to see the world through new eyes, to cherish each moment, and to value the simple things that might have gone unnoticed before. It's as if the pain opens our eyes to the fragility and preciousness of life, teaching us to live with a more open and compassionate heart. In this way, grief becomes a source of learning and growth, driving us to live more consciously and meaningfully in honor of those who have passed. Finally, by accepting grief as a form of eternal love, we find a path to move forward with serenity. Each memory we carry is not merely an echo of the past, but a force that guides us and gives us purpose. May we continue our journey, confident that the person we loved lives within us, in every step we take and in every decision we make. By living this way, we allow grief to transform into a continuous celebration of a shared life, of a love that, even across distances, will never stop inspiring us to be better and to live fully. Share a special memory of someone you've lost and wish to keep alive in the comments below. Together, let's turn these memories into a chain of love and strength, creating a space where grief transforms into gratitude. Let's continue to honor the presence of our loved ones, even in their absence, and strengthen our journey through these stories of eternal love. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe to the channel to receive content that helps you find harmony and healing. By leaving a like, you'll help us reach more people seeking comfort and inspiration. Together, let's build a community of support, peace, and transformation. And for moments of deep reflection where you can find peace and serenity, I invite you to explore the Pure Harmony channel. It's a space for relaxing music, perfect for calming the mind and reconnecting with your essence. The link is in the description. See you next time.